Well, hello and welcome and welcome and hello and welcome and hello. Greetings and salutations. Buenas noches a todos. Hello and welcome and hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on this extremely special, timely, topical, poignant edition of Un Poco Mas, the show where we talk in dramatic tush tones. Boy, guys, there's just so much going on. If you are very susceptible to panic and to overreaction, the incoming Trump administration, it might seem like it's upending the entire world order, and all of our allies are now enemies and things like that. I really don't think that's what's going on. You have to understand there's more than one reason to use tariffs. Drug interdiction is not one of them. That doesn't really make any sense. Law enforcement, tariffs, curtailing trade will in fact not do anything to slow down the flow of fentanyl, which doesn't come from Canada anyway. It's a canard, if you will. But whatever it is, it's being used to bludgeon. It doesn't. People think, okay, the only purpose of tariffs is protectionism. You're trying to protect U.S. industries, and in years past that would be true. If this were the 1890s or the 1930s, which were the last times tariffs were sort of used to the extent that Trump is quote unquote threatening to use them. It's not actually going to happen. I mean, Trump does not want to crash the U.S. economy. If these tariffs were employed for even a year, it would send inflation at least back from, 3 or whatever, at least double it. I mean, at least. It depends. It could even get much, much worse. Trump is crazy like a fox. If you play cards, I mean, he uses sort of a madman theory. I don't agree with every bit of his policies, but it's not crazy. It's not going to destroy everything. They already have an agreement with Mexico, basically. And Mexico, if you're going to talk about drugs and things like this, I mean, I would make the argument that the problem is a demand problem, and the fact that U.S. consumes so much drugs and there's so much demand for drugs, and that's why the drugs come. And you're going to find that even if you completely militarize the border between the United States and Mexico, it's like water, it flows. It just finds the path of least resistance and it meets the demand. And that's how narco trafficking works. It does, like when they closed, Mexico before, they started going up through the Caribbean. They went, closed the Caribbean, they found other routes. They closed down everything in Colombia, and, what do you know? They start, producing in Peru. Like the war on drugs, the sort of militarization, criminalization, that sort of model doesn't work unless you're willing to go sort of like, a Singapore approach, or, where you're just handing out the death penalty for drug possession. I mean, I don't know if that's where these folks want to go, but so tariffs don't really stop, the flow of drugs. So it's one of two things you're doing with tariffs. You're either protecting domestic industries, or you're utilizing it as sort of a weapon against the country that, you're imposing the tariff on. Because ultimately, tariffs are a stealth tax on the poor. I mean, what are you taxing? Like consumer goods, food, energy, textiles, cars. I mean, these are things that the guys sitting, it's just an extraordinary thing. If you're a populist, and you're concerned about bringing back manufacturing jobs, blue collar jobs in the Rust Belt, why are billionaires running everything? And it's no different, under Democrats, by the way. Wealthy interests run everything there too. The people who run the unions are wealthy. Everyone with power is wealthy, like one way or another. But anyway, guys, welcome and hello and welcome. So, you could just go one by one. None of it really makes any sense. I mean, I think the gripe with Canada is, like, structurally, are you really surprised you have a trade deficit with Canada when they supply such a huge amount of our energy? And you look at Canada, they're this vast country with a ton of natural resources and very few people. How much can they consume? We're like more than 10 times the size of them population wise. if you just look at the structure of it, it doesn't, the fact that you have a trade deficit, that pure one metric does not mean you're being taken advantage of or something. It's just, I don't know. It's stupid rationalizations. I think you could get to where you want to go, which is basically saying, hey, the United States should get a fair shake. When we pay for things, provide for other, block security, whether it's the EU, Greenland, Panama. And I mean, you saw Marco Rubio, Marco Rubio is quite a, he didn't kill Kennedy. He's actually a fairly intelligent, competent guy, I think. And he went down to Panama because I believe he's Cuban. He speaks fluent Spanish. He was able to, I think, communicate a little bit more. And if you think the deal is they don't want to pay the transit fees for like the Navy, I mean, yeah, that might be like sort of a source of pride or whatever, just sort of saying, F you, we built this thing. We don't want to pay every time we transit it. But it's like, they're like, hey, this is a uniform. This is law. This isn't something, to sort of piss in your Wheaties. But the United States gripe is not that Panama is charging really. The United States gripe is that China is getting their tentacles into everything, and they have, facilities on every single inch of the Panama Canal. They're sort of, observing, controlling, and China uses these sort of, development grants, these loans, these, bullshit financial, sort of entanglements that they're putting the entire developing world in. And, I will say, like, I think Trump sees the China threat more clearly and more realistically than, we've been looking at it for the past number of decades. I mean, it was Nixon who engaged with China, and we should engage with China, and we should trade with China. But the problem is not necessarily trade deficits. The problem is tariffs. What are you trying to accomplish? There's more. You talk about a 10% tariff on China. I mean, that might actually do something to protect and grow some U.S. industry. I personally just don't believe, tariffs and protectionism are going to work in today's world. Especially when you think about if your stated purpose and your real purpose is stopping the flow of human trafficking and stopping the flow of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs, is what you want to do crash the country's economy into recession, destabilize the government further? I mean, the notion that this new government in Mexico is like a tool of the narco traffickers and the cartels, I just think defies reality and logic. It's like the fact that somebody doesn't share all of your political ideology, and then they're saying, well, we have more of an equal, trade agreement or an equal trade balance with Britain. Look at it, genius. I mean, Britain is a completely developed country. They have similar per capita income. They have disposable income. Their economy, their society looks a lot like America. Just, obviously a lot smaller in terms of, economic, population, et cetera, military. But it's not surprising to look at them. They produce a lot of finished goods. They produce a lot of luxury goods. The United States is exporting, a lot of agricultural goods, high-tech finished goods in terms of like servers and NVIDIA and all this type of thing. So you have to look at the structure of these trade imbalances and think, okay, is the fact that we run a trade deficit with Canada and Mexico, does that mean we're being ripped off? I mean, Trump himself negotiated these trade agreements in his last administration. They were tough then. But it's like, if you understand, I don't think he wants to impose long-term 25% tariff. He just wants the concessions that he wants. But I think there's other ways to go about it that don't involve sort of crashing, the stock market. But this was a flash crash. I think this was basically set up today. It's going to recover tomorrow when all the sort of fear goes out of it. What you're going to see is a bunch of money was transferred at these lows from retail to institutional investors. I think the same thing, happened with SMCI. But again, look at a little bit below the surface. It's not really about, going in and invading Panama. It's about checking China and, the United States saying, listen, China is taking over the whole damn Western Hemisphere, Latin America. We've got to put our foot down, do something about it. Be very, very firm. And I completely agree with that posture vis-a-vis Panama. I'm not saying punish them economically. I'm not saying don't pay the fees. I'm saying kick China's happy ass right out the door. Fuck out of our hemisphere. Cause enough problems in the South China Sea. Fucking go fuck around with the Philippines. Panama alone. We built the fucking Panama Canal back when those, front loaders are fucking powered by steam. It's like when we built the Alaska Highway. We used to be able to do big things. Hoover Dam, man on the moon. Now we can't agree about what color the sky is. By the way, guys, welcome and hello and welcome and hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on this extremely special edition of Un Poco Mas, the show where we measure our wieners and give you just a little bit more. Hello and welcome, Mark Richard. You sort of stood out because your avatar is in red, so you are the only one of the guys that hasn't been dismissed. Mark, the notion that, the United States president's like Canada is going to cease to exist. I know he doesn't mean that. And Trump has a puffery. He has a way of saying he's not going to invade Canada. He's not trying to make Canada a state. Canada's a country, sovereign country. I was a part of the British Commonwealth. Canada has been one of our closest allies throughout the entire 20th century, with us shoulder to shoulder in every single war. And this notion that because they have a liberal prime minister, Canada's not a particularly liberal population, believe me. Most of it anyway. It's like the US, like certain cities are liberal, and then, most of the country is screamingly conservative, I would argue. But you don't treat your neighbors, it's just like, okay, I don't mind bullying China. But Canada is a strategic ally that's always there for us. They're abiding by trade agreements. Then just to say, hey, you got to stop the flow of fentanyl and human trafficking, or we're going to destroy your economy. They're like, well, okay, we're willing to put do what you're asking us, secure the border further, make sure we're interdicting as much as possible. But it's like, no, we want to, ratchet up this. It just makes absolutely no fucking sense. The Wall Street Journal called it the stupidest trade war in history. Not everybody's going to agree with you all the time. That's part of life. Like, there's conservatives. And so, like, now Elon Musk, it's like, okay, he's trying to influence the elections in Great Britain and Germany. Get these sort of like neo-Nazi parties involved, and like if they don't come around, then it's like we're going to have a trade war with you. This is no way to conduct foreign policy, but there is a method to the madness. They will get the concessions and life will go on. But I think in broad strokes, it really hurts United States power over the long run, because you're not seen as a reliable, rational partner when you behave this way. Like, you negotiate agreements, even with previous administration. I mean, these trade agreements with Canada, Trump himself negotiated these in his last administration. So, like, the whole thing is just, it's so nonsensical and counterproductive. I mean, and they'll say, well, I got the concessions I wanted. So, right. And, people's methods are different. I guess if you get to A to B, you think it's worth it, but there are consequences, there are blowback to how you get from A to B. And it's just like trying to completely upend the world order and, turn things around and get respect back. And you're not going to, it's like in his mind, okay, we're running, a trade balance with Britain good. And we're running a trade deficit with Canada bad. They're taking advantage of us. What do you want to send them? There's not enough people up there to buy enough stuff. And we need a ton of what do you fail to understand about this? I don't know. This is just, I really didn't think, foreign policy could get any stupider, because we've been going in the wrong direction in this country for a long time. I mean, hey, China, here's keys to everything. And Russia attacked, everything happens because we're weak. It wouldn't have pushed Ronnie like this. I don't buy it. But the United States really needs to do some soul searching in terms of who we are, how we're going to conduct our foreign policy. I mean, this sort of authoritarian, heavy-handed, my way or the highway, do 100% of what we want immediately, or we're going to crash your economy and invade you. That is not a rational, sustainable foreign policy. The thing about game theory is you have to be prepared to play over and over again, because we're going to need our allies in the Western world. We're going to need Canadian fighter jets and pilots if, war breaks out in Taiwan and in, 2 or 3 other places simultaneously. You're going to value your allies at that point. Yeah, when it's just a game of King of the Hill and you're on the top of the hill, I mean, everything in life is not a dick measuring contest. All right, you got a tiny dick. It's like, we get it. You're just trying to bully everybody. I mean, if I have a black wedding ring and a huge beard like ZZ Top and a bunch of AR-15s, I'm rolling around in camouflage cargo shorts, I got a tiny wiener. I don't know. Is everybody that angry about everything where we want to invade Canada? What? Is this really what people voted for? I'm curious. That Canada cease to exist? That we start threatening to invade Mexico? It's like, well, we just put in some tier 1 operators. So easy. Just hit the cartels. What do you think happens when you leave that? So you wipe out the heads of the cartels. What do you think happens? The drug trafficking stops? It's so naive. Every time you destabilize these organizations, other things come in to fill the void that might be better. They might be worse, but something's going to come in to fill the void. As long as there's a demand for drugs in the United States and the criminal justice system is such that, you kind of have this revolving door thing with drug addiction. The prison guards union, I mean, guys, why don't we have any rehabs available for poor people? What's the answer for poor people? Tariffs. A huge stealth tax on the poor. I mean, I know I sound like some raving communist Marxist. I assure you I'm not. I assure you. I'm for many of these policies. Less regulation, lower taxes, less emphasis on this constant political correct, woke, all this stuff. And I mean, person to person, I love everybody. I don't care what you are, who you have sex with, what you look like. That's not my concern. I think life is short and, everyone deserves to sort of try to have some happiness in this world. It's like, it's not my job to judge and hate everybody else. Even if they look different than me, act different than me, have different values than me, as long as they're a decent person, they pull on the rope, they don't disrupt and destroy society. That's where I think we've just gone wrong. It's just, you want to accept everything. This sort of antisocial, behavior. That's how you end up, being permissive of just theft. And, you can't buy razors anymore. Can't buy razors anymore because they're all locked up. Wait, you can't buy anything anymore because it's all locked up. How far are we going to let things go? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Not a Lurker. Appreciate that. Coming in on the bat phone. Some great advice. Actually, a bottled water. So I don't know, guys. I don't have any answers, but I mean, here's what I know. I have studied history, economics, pretty much everything. I'm a lifelong learner, guys. In addition to being a great hugger. No. I make a mean cup of decaf. Anyway, yeah, so none of this stuff's going to work, but it's not designed to work. Everybody, that's why Paul Krugman and everybody's wetting their pants. Oh my God, it's not. It is going to work for exactly what Trump wanted it to do. Now, I disagree with the bluntness of his method, but you have to understand what his goal is and the fact that he's going to achieve that goal. And that goal is not to crash the Mexican economy. It's to bully the liberal leaders of Mexico and Canada into submission. But he's not really going to get that. He's going to get certain concessions, and then he's going to declare victory. It's a propaganda technique, folks. There is not going to be a sustained, you're going to see the people who he's like got him into office. They're talking about slapping 100% tariffs on Teslas. Elon Musk doesn't. Where do you think he makes most of his cars, guys? It's in China. Elon Musk is just as beholden to, the Tesla can't exist without the government in China. We live in a world where trade goes everywhere. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. You can't put the cat back in the bag. Even protectionism is breaking down in countries like Japan and Germany. It just doesn't work. So we're going to have a, concurrent reciprocal trade war with Canada, Mexico, EU, different parts of Latin America. It's just going to crash our economy, cause inflation to go through the roof. We're not going to be back at square one. We're going to be back at square like -10. It's like, okay, get ready for short-term pain. What do you mean short-term? Inflation goes back to 6. You don't push it back down to 2. It's going to take a few years. You're going to be dead. I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. Who is running this thing? My first official act, I'm going to just declare war on Canada. Who's there every fucking time we need them to go to war and die with us? Okay. I don't doubt that we provide a certain amount of subsidies for like their military defense, other things that benefit us, infrastructure, oil infrastructure, energy infrastructure. But to say Canada is just this country of like lazy grifters who do nothing but suck off the fattened teat of the United States, it's an absurdity. It's an absurdity. An average Canadian probably works harder than the average American. They're not as fat as we are. And they're white as shit. You gotta love that. You gotta love these guys. Oh, man. It was the 51st state. It's like, I know when, again, if you have a ton of power and perhaps you happen to have a tiny dick, I don't know. I don't know why people are so angry. But you have a ton of power. You exercise the power with restraint. It works better. You get more of what you want. You don't just bring out your, Uncle Henry's apple bag and start teabagging everybody until they run out of the room. It might be effective over the short run in terms of getting what you want, getting some good headlines, getting concessions. I think it served a good purpose in kind of, throwing a scare into the Chinese, which I think is very, very important. Got to push back on their expansion. They're expanding everywhere. And it's not just militarily. It's not just their blue water navy. It's not just their, space weapons. It's not just their, Gen 4 fighters that they're supposedly able to build jet engines now, which I don't really believe. Unless the fucking Russians are helping them, which of course they are. What's the deal with those, flippy aircraft carriers the Russians build still with the little, ramp? You don't have enough horsepower? No replacement for displacement, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm just like, guys, Don't make an enemy out of everybody all at once. I understand you sort of feel like you're boxed in, you're a counterpuncher. You know, you long for the days of the 50s when, everything was made here and you had these great union jobs and you worked there your whole life and you could afford a home and send your kids to college. But the world has moved on. The economy has moved on. You can't compete in those sort of low skill jobs, companies with much lower, per capita income, standard of living, per capita GDP, all that stuff. And you're not trying to. There has to be an evolution to sort of the level of what you're doing in your economy. And certain people just don't want to acknowledge that the world has moved on and we're never going to compete making washing machines. I know people go up, if you bring it back, we make high quality, we have the best workers. I agree with all that. But make something innovative where we can be competitive. They don't want to put money into job training. I mean, they're always talking about, the Chinese and the Indians, they're educating so many engineers. We can't compete with them. That's why Elon Musk needs to bring in these visas from, India and other places in Asia. Because we're just not churning out the engineers. We're not churning out the doctors. We're not churning out the nurses. It's not because we're dumb. It's because we're fucking lazy and entitled. We don't put the emphasis on discipline and education. And you see it in our society. And I think that's what the reaction is. Like, oh, how did we get here? How did we get here? Well, I mean, look at how a lot of middle America, look at their options. They're going to go, Kamala, she's doing that bid on Saturday Night Live. People are hurting and it's like, Kamala, blah, 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 blah. It's like, what's that name? Maya. What? It makes you look like a fucking idiot. Nobody wants to vote for you. Want to vote for somebody who seems serious, somebody people are afraid of. And I think Trump does that quite well. I think maybe the Chinese should be afraid of him. I don't think Putin's afraid of him. But I don't think Putin's really afraid of anybody. When he's sick, he just doesn't give a fuck. Oh, I don't know, guys. Just a city boy, born and raised. China is trying all the debt of these countries, building infrastructure. Yep, that's exactly what they're doing. Useless facts. They're the company store, but you're going to be subservient to Beijing for everything. So they're going to dictate, who gets to build ports. Who do you cooperate with militarily, economically? You're going to basically become a satellite state for China. Now, the U.S. really never structured our aid this way. But I think that's kind of the point Trump is making with like Greenland, is saying, hey, China and Russia are pushing in, taking everything in the Arctic. If the West, the quote unquote free world, if anybody's going to defend this giant expanse of land, it's going to be the United States. We're the only ones with the capability. So we should have more say because we have skin in the game. And I think that's true. I don't think that means you have to create a hostile relation. It doesn't mean Denmark is now your enemy or you have to buy Greenland. And I don't see why you'd want to spend all that. You can get the resources. You can get the security. You don't have to own everything. You don't have to put a giant Trump sign on anything, on every building, on everything. Be subtle. Be humble. You look more powerful when you're not so thirsty, when you're not doing so much, when you don't have your name gold blazed on every fucking thing. It's a tiny dick energy. Stop. Again, if you just ask me about ideas, you ask me about philosophy, I'm very conservative, but I cannot approach the world with a tiny dick energy. A bullying sort of, you look weak. Bullies look weak. We don't need to bully because we're strong. Use the strength. And we haven't been using it. I think there's merit there. But just tone it down a little bit. Don't go fucking hard at Canada. Go hard at China. Better yet, go hard at Russia. We're going to end the war day one. People are still dying over there. Get her done. No, seriously, I think you can end that war. I mean, Ukraine's going to have to make concessions. They're not getting all that, they're not getting Crimea back. It's not going to happen. I mean, I'm not talking about right and wrong. I'm talking about what's actually going to happen, what's actually possible, pragmatic. I mean, if you make a lot of concessions to Putin, you could end the war. What are people prepared to agree to? I don't know. What the hell was I talking about? Who voted for Beyonce My Country Album of the Year? I don't know. That's absurd. I saw that whole controversy. I don't get it. Guys. I don't get much of anything. But anyway, I was going to talk a little bit about SMCI, so let's get on with it. But again, tariffs don't work, and they're not intended to work. They're intended to sort of shock and awe, get concessions, sort of change the starting line, change the discussion, change the narrative. And I think it worked. I think everybody's shocked. I think everybody's kind of disoriented. I think, which is, how Trump likes to negotiate. It's not from a position of strength or a position of weakness, but it's this madman theory. It's the ambiguity. You don't know what he's going to do. And it throws you off your game, makes you unstable. Hold on, guys. Let me take this call. I'll be right back with you. Yeah, sorry, GBP. How right you are. So SMCI announced that they're going to give what they're calling a business update for the second quarter fiscal 2025, and that's going to be, I believe, on the 11th, which I think is next. Let's see, is that they're rehashing that Kramer sell thing. I think it's going to be, what is that, next Tuesday. So it's going to be Tuesday after the market. Now, why is this so important? Obviously, this is what we've all been waiting to hear. It's critical because if you understand how accounting works, they're not going to be able to get out here and give this update without BDO's blessing. Okay, even if they have not filed last year's 10K or, financials for Q1, if they're going to give, specific hard numbers, financials, even unaudited, even unsupported, even horse shit, drawn on a napkin, Warren Red Balls, napkin math. Like, even if you're going to do that, BDO has to let you do it. So let's see what this turd is doing after hours. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the long tariff rant. I'm just like, I just feel like it's like, man, there's so much power, like, to do this thing and to improve the lives of America. I don't want to go back. Anyway, so it's just I don't want to be at war with Canada. That's all I know. But and we're not going to be. It's all going to work out just fine. It's just a lot of fear right now, which I think is really the intent. But anyway, welcome and hello and welcome. So Super Micro up almost 259% after hours. Remember, this was stabilized between 30 and 34. So if you manipulate the starting line, you're able to say, oh, the stock went up 10% and it's still under 30. Okay, market cap at close, 15 billion. Let's just think about that. That's last year's sales, not this year's sales, not forward sales, last year's sales. And you think, okay, they must be losing a ton of money, drowning in debt, about to go bankrupt. Then you see EPS 2022, 55 cents, 2023, $1.21, 2024, $2.17, looking at $2.80 this year, which is, a slowing rate of growth, but if you start to look, this is getting into value territory. So, if you see this value blog on Zacks with Tracy, I'm sure most of you guys have seen this many, many times, just highlights stocks that are, good for value investors. So this week, talking about Eaton, talking about Sterling, and talking about Supermicro, down 15.9% 4 days after the DeepSeek panic. This is the cheapest of the infrastructure stocks. Supermicro Computer trades with a forward PE ratio of just 8.8. A PE under 15 is considered a value, and Supermicro Computer is under 10. That's last year's profit. This valuation, unless there's just huge skeletons in the closet, unless Uncle Chucky and Aunt Sarah have just been up to no good, no bueno, unless they're just dirty as, this company is grossly undervalued. Ooh, silky year-end sale. What the hell? So anyway, Constellation Energy, that's another good stock. But or she's saying it's a good stock. I don't know. Nvidia, where's Nvidia trading? Forward PE of 42, and it was near 50x after the sell-off. So yeah, I mean, if you want to, forward PE 52, forward PE 8.8, and you can argue, hey, Nvidia has incredible margins, and they deserve that valuation. And actually, Nvidia, people are arguing, could be on a bit of a sale right now. But those are just two completely different investments. I mean, Supermicro Computer, you're looking for risk on, sort of a home run. They get their house in order. Nvidia, you're saying, okay, it's already, priced to perfection, but it's even more than perfect. They're even better than perfect. They're like God's gift to semiconductors. Jensen, that little leather jacket, just looks so cool. Kind of guy that would like buy a brand new Harley Davidson. It's like a brand new leather and just ride around. Just putting his money, his disposable income in the face of all the real bikers. Hey man, it's built, not bought. Built, not bought. It's like people always say about their those little Subarus, little off-road vehicles. Anyway, guys, I don't really know what I'm talking about. So just look at the chart for this turd for a second. And you're going to see something interesting in terms of what these guys talk about, these levels. So go way back to this base that was sort of all the way back from I don't know. This is 2023 up until May 2023. Then you hit this other base from June through the end of the year, through January 2024. And if you follow those lines, one picks up just the bottom right here absolutely perfectly, and the other picks up right around 30, right around the lows where this thing's been consolidating. And then if you look at how this is behaving, it keeps testing the top of this wedge, only basically testing the bottom once. Now, if you argue this one's coming in, then it just broke down a little, came back up, and you're basically at the terminus. You're at point zero. You're at the intersection of, a kick in the nuts and a shit sandwich. Oh, God. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, SMCI as a cult, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's that complicated. I mean, their accounting's been dirty. Their executives are stupid and corrupt. They hire back people who make horrible decisions, who are responsible for accounting, you'd say irregularities if you're putting it very, very kindly, and just, fraud if you're going to be more truthful about it. But you have to remember, what was Hindenburg alleging? What's being alleged? It's not that revenues are fictitious. I mean, even the bears acknowledge the growth, acknowledge the ramp, acknowledge the profits, the growing EPS. They're like, profits are crashing. They need cash immediately. I mean, we're going to see in a week if they need cash. I mean, I don't believe they do. I think they have plenty of cash. I think Uncle Chucky and Aunt Sarah's brothers and sisters keep billions of dollars in cash under their mattresses. Various businesses. Let's see, guys. Welcome and hello and welcome. I am currently... Are you guys in Redondo? I am in the South Bay. I'm not in Redondo. I love Hermosa, but I can't live there anymore. Too old. Let's see. El Segundo, love El Segundo. Redondo Beach too. Yeah, I love Redondo. I absolutely love it. Probably my favorite city in the South Bay. This is more like a blue collar vibe, you know. Love the pier, all that fun stuff. Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna move too. Well, go to the mountains with Steve. Let's see, guys. So what was I talking about? Super micro. So what do you guys expect on the 11th? What the numbers they basically have already told us, it's not really that relevant whether it's like 6 and then the next quarter 6. Of course, the margins are going to be what everybody's looking for more than the sales and probably EPS number, but then even more critical than that is what are we looking at in terms of revisions? What are we looking at in terms of corporate governance? And let's hope that business update includes a new CFO, because the guy who's responsible for all the bullshit is still functioning as the CFO. The guy who the special committee said they need to fire and replace. That's too slow. That's one of the many reasons. I know the market makers are controlling this thing, but that's one of the many reasons the freaking stock is still this low. They're able to hold it down. Retard are so weak on it. I mean, why does it take this long to get that guy out the door? Why did they bring him back in the first place? Tell you why, because Uncle Chucky and Aunt Sarah like to cook the books. That's why. Anyway, guys, welcome and hello and welcome. Is SCM? I don't know. We'll know in a week. Premium the option. We'll know in a week. Let's see the SMCI logo. I don't know what you tattoo on your wiener is your own business. I would recommend a metric measuring tape if I was you. Ladies love it. No, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend a wiener tattoo. That sounds extremely painful. Oh my gosh. Where is this show? This show's lowbrow as it gets. Let's see. Mega Archel. All you guys are in Redondo. Oh man. We'll have to get together for an iced tea. Everybody always inviting me for a beer. I don't drink. That's why I'm able to live down here in the beautiful I was able to live in Hermosa for so long and survive. Barely. Alberto Bertie Aviles in the house. The Rifleman. Forever Forgiven. Have a good night forever. C. Balano, what's the word? Can't be so bad that prevents them filing proper earnings yearly and now quarterly. I mean, what prevented them from filing was the Hindenburg report sowed all this doubt, and then Ernst & Young resigned. I don't know. That's a great question. That's the whole, that's the whole kit and caboodle. That's a $64,000 question. 64 billion or whatever. I mean, the special committee, that lawyer they hired, she has a lot of credibility, decades and decades track record, and saying there's just nothing there that, is going to, cause any real material revisions. If that's the case, this thing is undervalued by 3. Now, if it's horrible and they have to go back and revise everything, I think it's still a bit undervalued. I mean, how big are the revisions? Are you going to find, fake, fictitious, just revenues made up out of whole cloth? I don't think so. But I don't know. You might. And if you do, this thing's going to crash, even further. Maybe that's why they're shorting the hell out of it. Maybe they know something. Whole toolbox, CFO David Weiglin. My understanding is he's not gone. He's still acting, but I hope I'm wrong, ET Val. Danny takes dabs. No, I don't. I don't take any drugs. Are dabs drugs? I don't even know what that is. It sounds like drugs. But no, I'm sober as a jaybird, man. It's boring as hell. I'm not stoned right now. If you're looking like it might be lack of sleep. I can't do it, man. I wish I was. Uncle Chucky needs to have his keys. I know. You're absolutely right. There's a little birdie in here. Chirp, chirp. Chucky, he's not a showman. He cares about the product. I mean, yeah, but, counting fraud is never good. I mean, you'd think you'd learn your lesson if you're that smart. Is, cut out the cancer. Get rid of these guys. I don't know. Why risk your company for this? Do they know where the bodies are buried? Are they going to implicate you unless you pay? You just have to ask yourself why he would, bring these guys back and leave them there after they're charged by the SEC. They're fired in the first place. I don't know. It's just that part of it is really stupid to me. I know he's not in, the executives are not personally in charge of the, of the accounting. But if you don't have the controls in place and you don't let the people who are honest with the numbers do their job and you let them, be pushed around by people that are less than honest, you're going to end up having, a lot of problems, which is where we find ourselves. Steve in the Mountains got some numbers. Yeah, unfortunately not qualified. I wish I was. I would love to have some job where I got a ton of stock options. They're never going to hire me. Too high all the time. Doing dabs. Doing dabs, according to Marco Guzar. I don't even know what dabs are. Let's see. Sand dabs? I don't know any exotic drugs. I only know the basics. I don't know any drugs that were invented for raves or anything that was invented in the last 30 years. No, just acid, meth, coke, heroin, pot, pills. That's really all I know. Molly. I know people do Molly. I don't really know what that is. Anyway, guys, hello and welcome and hello. I don't know where I was going with any of this video. Just a bunch of crap built up in my head. Kind of want to talk about, but don't panic with the tariff stuff. Trump's not really starting a trade war. He's basically, like I said, it's to certain people, everything is a dick measuring contest, and they just don't like to be challenged. So, but at the end of the day, you also don't want to, harm your own economy, harm your own industries. Politics is the art of compromise. It's not the art of alienating your closest allies. And he knows that. So he's on the phone to the president of Mexico already. They already agreed to a pause. I mean, just wants to negotiate from where he wants to negotiate, which is where you already have in mind to give the concessions that he wants because you're scared shitless and crapping your pants. Like I said, in the short term is a great way to negotiate. But over the long term, when you have to play that game over and over and over again, it can be very counterproductive because not only does nobody trust you, but nobody even wants to play the game with you. They want to take their ball and go home. They want to avoid relitigating these agreements because every time, feels like a colonoscopy times 10. So I don't know. I think it's going to be effective. I think we're going to get the concessions. I think the real goal here was just to scare the living shit out of China and say, hey, you got to stop. You got to retrace. You got to take it back a bit because we see you doing too much. We see you being extra. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, these other, why were people so freaked out about Russia invading Ukraine other than, it's a land war in Europe. It's unprecedented since World War II. I mean, it's people were so surprised by Biden saying he's going in, he's massing these troops. They don't have the money and resources to mass their entire army at the border unless they're going in. They just wouldn't do it. So it's they're going in. But the reason it was so destabilizing is because, then it brought Putin from sort of this dark, mysterious figure to just madman. They're he's just going to bomb things. And that scares people. Rightly so. But Trump's not Putin. I don't think Trump is that blunt. I think Putin is not that strategic. Trump really does want to make deals. He just wants to make them on his own terms, which you could say is a good thing. You could say it could be a bad thing. It just depends what you're doing. Remember, subtlety, nuance. Sometimes it's what you don't say. Sometimes it's what you don't threaten. Could be more effective than just openly making threats. The other side may not be receptive. Want them off balance, not terrified. If you want to negotiate. If you ever tried to negotiate with somebody who's just shocked and terrified, you can't really negotiate with them because they can't think. And then things negotiated in too much haste, they won't hold up over time. It's like, this is the trade agreement you negotiated with Canada just a few years ago. Now you're saying it's a horrible deal. We're getting ripped off. Well, you negotiated that agreement. Now he's saying, well, they're not honoring it, yada, yada, yada. I mean, I was just reading like, okay, Canada signed a free trade agreement with Ecuador. And they did 6 rounds of negotiations over 2 years. We're trying to compress all the negotiations down to like a couple days. Basically negotiating with a gun to somebody's head. You could say, yeah, it's effective. Sign the papers. Either you're ink. It's like ink or blood, they say in the cartels, or money or blood, whatever it is, that you're going to sign or you're going to die. You're going to cooperate with our corruption or you're going to die. It's effective. It's effective. But, would you rather be loved or feared? Yes, both. You want to be loved and feared. You don't want to be just feared. Nobody's going to want to work with you. Nobody's going to want to work with you. Anyway, guys, I just think everybody overreacts to everything. Everybody says, oh, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the government. Everything's going to be shut down. Everything's going to be cut off. Just give it a minute. The instability, the chaos, some people use that as a tool to destabilize their adversaries. But you got to keep a cool head. You got to not panic unless there's a reason to panic. It's like, was that Bridge of Spies? He's like, all this is going on. You're on trial for treason. You get the death penalty. You don't seem worried. He's like, would it help? No. Anyway, so I don't know, guys. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. New administration, foreign policy. I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but I just don't feel like it's going to be the end of the world. I feel like life's going to go on. The economy is going to go on. Trade's going to go on. I mean, Mexico said they're going to send 10,000 troops to the border to stop the flow of, human smuggling, drug smuggling. Could be a very good thing. But again, if you completely militarize the border, search everything coming through the border, drug transshipments, they're going to find a way around that. They're going to come in through another point. And, fentanyl, it's not something you have to have, trucks and trucks and trucks of. Like one semi-load's a lot. So again, I feel like the problem with drugs is the demand. I mean, it's a supply too, but you need one of two things. You need to stop demand through, people not wanting drugs, which does not seem to be the American way. After all, most of us are on dabs. Anyway. So you just have to wait and see how things shake out, but just don't panic too easily. Just don't panic too easily. Don't assume don't take everything at face value. Hey, we're in a trade war with the whole world. No, we're really not yet. I mean, the tariffs take effect tomorrow. Don't be surprised if there's some kind of deal with Canada within a week, because it's not going to take that long to disrupt the auto industry. It's not going to take that long to disrupt energy. Yeah, Canada is going to get hit a lot harder than the U.S. That's for sure. I mean, our economy is so large, we can absorb the punishment. We can get things other places. We can make things ourselves. We have a much larger, more diverse economy than Canada. But that's not to say U.S. consumers won't feel pain. It won't contribute to inflation. It won't, the administration's already upset with Powell that he didn't do rate cuts. Canada now paused for 30 days. Very nice. Not alert. That's exactly what I'm talking. I didn't know that had happened, but exactly what I thought would happen. It's all not going to happen. It's all fear. It's all propaganda. If you're scared shitless, you'll pretty much go along with anything. Like, remember the financial crisis when the taxpayers bailed out all the, basically they came in and said the world is ending. They're like, Lehman went out of business, Bear Stearns, like next is, XYZ. If we don't bail out AIG and these others, the world is over. And they're like, blank check, 700 billion, 2 trillion, whatever you want, print money. I mean, same thing. And rightly, yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Art of the deal. And again, guys, this is very time. I'm glad that happened because it really illustrates my point. It really illustrates my point of how quickly this type of negotiation gets results. Now, I'm glad it's not some rush deal. It's a pause. And then you can do something that makes sense. But my point with the Ecuador-Canada deal, it took 6 rounds of negotiation over 2 years just to make that deal between a tiny economy and a small economy. Canada and Mexico are our largest trading partners. You have to get this right. It doesn't help us to destroy the economies of Canada and Mexico. It hurts us greatly. Yes, we want to stop crime, drug smuggling, human trafficking, all that stuff. 100%. God, I hope this is not a lurker. It is. Let's see. Art of the Deal, Tomorrow Green Day. I think I might buy the book. Yeah, I've read Art of the Deal. The guy who actually wrote Art of the Deal turned into this Trump critic. But it could be a lot of sour grapes. It's like, oh, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. And of course, all the celebrities like ghostwrite their books. But I'm telling you, it's not what it seems. We're like, protectionism doesn't work. He's not even doing that, you dummies. Don't you see how this guy operates? So obvious what he's doing. And he's running his thing to perfection. Disoriented everybody, scared the hell out of everybody. He's probably going to get 80% of what he wants without even lifting a finger. Some would say brilliant. A little bit heavy-handed, but that's his MO. That's how the guy rolls. Don't fuck around. Comes in with the pitchforks, the howitzers, Again, I'm not saying it's everybody's cup of tea. I'm not saying it's my cup of tea. I'm just telling you what's actually happening. It's not protectionism. It's not a trade war. It's, speak loudly and carry a big stick. And then don't even speak at all. Just hit them over the head with a stick so they know you're serious. And they're listening. Hey, you listening? Yeah, I'm listening. You just hit me over the head with a baseball bat. Ears wide open. Let's talk. Call me. You think Justin Trudeau's putting on his yoga pants, doing a little downward dog? He's shitting his pants. Trade war with the United States would just destroy the Canadian economy. That's what Trump means. He's not talking about Canada will cease to exist because we're going to invade them. But we'll bankrupt them. And he's right. Our neighbors are very reliant on us. It's like if you have a tiny restaurant next to like some giant factory, little diner, all you serve is lunch to these workers, and all of a sudden the factory goes out of business, you're fucked. It's a symbiotic relationship. Kumbiotic. Anyway, guys, I don't really know what this video is about, but Supermicro, if you understand how accounting works, okay, they're going to announce Q2 2025, which for them is what would normally be considered Q4 2024, because their fiscal year ends in the middle of the year. So their Q1 is, Q3, Q2 is our Q4. So you're talking period October through December 2024 is their fiscal Q2. Now, if BDO is going to give them the nod to go out and present these numbers, even not as audited financial statements, they have to be based upon the yearlies from 2024 and the Q1s. You need to get to work over there. The fourth favorite Canadian is on. Who's that? Tevis? He makes a good sandal. No, that's Tevis. Very, very different. I could see Tevis playing a little frisbee golf. Couple of, beautiful European ladies. Like I said, I feel like Tevis has at least 2 girlfriends on every continent. On every continent where there's beautiful resorts. I'm not talking like Antarctica. But definitely the, South America, Europe, Asia, anywhere there's beautiful resort destinations, you'll find Tevis and lovely ladies. Man looks like a young Elvis. I'm just bitter. Anyway, I don't even know if Tevis is actually here. I don't know who the hell he's talking about. But Tevis is the only big timer foolish enough to come on this show. Let's see. Danny Fox, finally, yes. Mark Ricard, easy now. You need to get to work over there. Let's see. Canadian people get fired and still come to work. That's funny, guys. Everyone's like, I don't know, man. Everybody, people are taking Trump a little bit too literally. It's not trying to go to war with Canada. Trying to bludgeon them into concessions. Let's see. Canada's a shop around the corner. Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm saying. SMCI went up to below 30 because they announced that they're going to have a Q2 business update on the 11th, which basically I think means that the numbers are done and that BDO is signing off on the bullshit they're selling. That's what I think. I've never seen an expectation so low for a company. Basically all they're trying to do is be able to get their accounting financial statements written without shitting in their pants, falling all over themselves and cracking their heads open. Let's see. Trump is their daddy. I mean, guys, this is like, again, there's a method to the madness. Like, I don't think Trudeau is as scared as he said. Mexicans, they're not scared. Dude, Mexicans are going to get through anything. Like, okay, their economy, I don't know. They're not going to like it. I mean, I was listening to their economic minister talk about the results. It'd just be devastating for their country. So, yeah, they're going to make the concessions. They're going to bring the helicopters. They're going to bring the troops. But it's not like Mexico can just turn off, drug trafficking. It doesn't work that way. Oh, but we're going to see what they can do because they definitely don't want to go into a trade war with America. Or the United States. They're in part of America. But anyway, we definitely love Tevis. When narcissist breaks up with you, you run. My neighbor in the north loves me. Lisa Sitch, Wagons East, Shoney's big boy, Tevis going to Japan. Shoney's pops. Super Micro News. They scheduled a conference call for the second quarter results for 11th aftermarkets next Tuesday, 1 week from tomorrow. Aftermarket. Where's your honey? Where's Alberto Bertievles? Shit in one hand, wish SMCI the other. Let's see which one's filling up first. It's going to be close. No, they're going to file, Carl. We'll just have to see what's in there. He's asleep. Billy Jack, Trump's already ready for a Neo breakout. Yeah, Neo would look like it was going to make a little move today, and then it pulled back. Volume looked pretty solid. Anyway, guys, I got to go. I've been talking for like an hour and 3 minutes. Absolutely ridiculous. That's the thing is, don't panic. SMCI dropped like 10%. I bought some. I bought some more leaps for, I don't know, end of 2026. I think that was the furthest I could get out for what at the cost I wanted to pay. But yeah, I bought some shares. I bought a few calls. But don't buy short dated calls. I'm talking 2 year. I'm talking almost 2 years out. Okay, but don't buy anything short dated. Just feeding the beast. I mean, maybe now that we know there's results, but we don't know. We don't know what they're going to say. We know what this business update could be. I mean, could be anything. Could be bad. Just know that it's a Q2 business update. We don't know, that it's necessarily audited financials. We just don't know. Yeah, no, I'm all in on this one. It is up 9% after hours. Is it safe to buy Canadian bacon again? I don't play the futures. I don't play pork bellies. So Yeah, we're all ready for Neo to break out. Guys, thank you so much. I got to run. I got a bunch of crap to do. I've been blabbering on forever. But yeah, the motto is stay calm. Don't panic. If you don't see any, reason for this 10% dip today, maybe go ahead and buy the dip. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next week, because a lot of the pundits, a lot of the prognosticators have been saying, okay, even if results are good, it's a $40 stock. I mean, for me, if you just go 2x this year's sales, you're looking at a, $50 billion company. We're currently 16 billion. So that would be more than a 3x just to get to 2x this year's sales with nice profitability, decent margins, and very, very strong growth. We're saying NVIDIA is not going to fall off because it's not going to grow because of DeepSeek. I'm just not seeing that taking effect yet. That's years down the road. Let's see. Microsoft's not stopped spending. Tesla's not going to stop spending. Facebook's not going to stop spending. SoftBank's not going to stop. Oracle's not going to stop. Right now, everything with AI, these data center buildouts, is full speed ahead. SMCI, I believe, at the forefront of liquid cooling. People are saying, hey, they're not at the forefront. They're liquid cooling. I'm reading the opposite. I don't know. I'm not technical enough that I can just go by what I read. But people think their liquid cooling is best in class. Maybe I'm wrong about that. That becomes very, very important with these new NVIDIA chips. Now, if you don't need the new, super high-powered chips, liquid cooling, far less important. That's where DeepSeek throws a wrench into everything. But is everybody willing to take that chance and just stop all the development they've been pouring all this money into the last few years just to see if all that pans out and see if they were telling the truth that they trained this model for $6 million? I'm not buying. Sounds way too fishy for me. This is very true. Yeah, and Mexican presidencies are known. Everyone in Mexico is known for working with the drug cartels because you have no choice. But this is a very young administration in Mexico. I mean, she's only been there a few months. So I think it's way too soon to go to war with Mexico, too. But I think it's very good, the concessions that he got. I mean, they should be doing more on that border. It's like they use that border as a weapon. With Latin, I mean, that's what the Panamanians were saying, is like, hey, we'll just open the floodgates, let all the migrants forward. Like, we're working with you. Law enforcement, interdiction, we're working with you now. Let's work together. I think of course, that's what they want. I mean, once the United States just kick their balls in. Anyway, guys, I got to run. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching. It's un poco mas. I got to go. Bye-bye.